Hey, welcome to Taste for Adventure, where today we will be having a lineup of dessert beers.
Yeah, we're surrounded by various cake mixes and branded candy bars. Tell me about dessert beers. Does that kind of fall into its own category, or how do you classify like a dessert beer?
Well, the BJCP doesn't have a guideline for a dessert beer, but I think there's certainly a lot on the market. You may have heard of the term pastry stouts. Typically big, bold American stouts or Russian Imperial stouts, but then inspired by dessert-like flavors. Take like brownies or cakes, or even like Reese's Peanut Butter Cup. The chocolate and peanut butter has been a very popular combination in beer for a little while now.
Absolutely.
So I thought we could try a trio of dessert-inspired beers and give our thoughts.
I am good with that. What is our lineup for?
For our lineup tonight, we have Brewdog Nitro Choco Libre, which is a Mexican hot chocolate stout.
That's wild.
We have Catawba's El Gato Mariachi, which is a horchata white ale.
I love horchata.
And then we have West 6th Brewing Snake Cake, which is their imperial stout aged in bourbon barrels with vanilla and cocoa nibs. And I think this is probably like a birthday, or like an anniversary beer from them. So
yeah, I have no idea what the snake has to do with that, other than the rhyming scheme. But
yeah,
well, whatever.
Nitro. All right, so do you want to get started with Choco Libre?
Ooh.
We have a beautiful nitro pour here.
I never will get over a nitro pour.
Yeah.
It's just so beautiful.
The way it cascades up and you just watch it, but then it doesn't foam over.
Right.
Love it.
Well, and it had a really nice Mexican hot chocolate color when it was coming out.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's intended or if it's just kind of a nice kind of bonus.
So let's talk a little bit about Mexican hot chocolate.
Yeah.
I've actually had a couple of different Mexican hot chocolate beers. I don't know if I've ever actually had Mexican hot chocolate before.
No, I don't know if I have. It's been a really long time. I think the really famous brand is Abuelita.
Like what, Little Grandmother?
I can't remember if it's grandma or aunt.
Oh yeah.
But the Ita, the Ita implies like little, so like think like little old lady hot chocolate.
Sure, okay.
Which I guess is equivalent to our Swiss Miss.
Sure.
All right.
And
but
Mexican hot chocolate has a little spice to it too,
does,
right?
Yeah, I think that's kind of what.
Now, is it like a cinnamon type spice, or is it more of like a little bit of like a hot pepper type spice?
I think it might be a little bit more of a cinnamon.
Okay.
I guess we probably could have done our research for for that, but whatever.
Well, I'm sure that like with any recipe, there can be pretty big variations.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Now for this one, let me see if it says anything here. It says wrestle taste to the canvas.
Okay, I'm definitely getting some cinnamon in the taste though.
This really just says Nitro Mexican hot chocolate stout. It doesn't really list the ingredients.
So maybe it is cinnamon, but additional spices.
Sure, like maybe cinnamon, a little chipotle or something like that.
Maybe. Work for Abuelita brand Mexican hot chocolate, please write in.
Oh wow, this is really tasty.
Mm-hmm.
This is really tasty.
It's very it's very like. It's not enough spiciness to make you run for the milk, but
yeah,
it's got a nice spice like.
And it really comes in at the end to complement the sweetness.
Yes.
This is very otherwise pretty rich beer. It's 8.2% alcohol.
All right.
Definitely chocolatey. Yeah. Maybe a little bit of vanilla in there as well. Mm-hmm. Cinnamon.
Yep. Definitely cinnamon.
Yeah, and it's more of like a heat that you kind of feel kind of in your as it goes down, but it's not necessarily from the alcohol. I think that's where the little bit of spice comes in.
I think that's where it comes through, definitely.
Carefully balanced spiciness in this one.
This has got it's got that beautiful nitro head.
Yeah.
That isn't going away. With some of the nitro stouts I've had, it kind of dissipates after you've had a few tastes, but this stays creamy. That's really nice.
So Brewdog is a brewery that originated over in Europe. I think they're Scottish brewers.
Yeah, I did know that.
But they have opened up a brewery in Ohio, and there's a few tap rooms in Ohio as well. And that's actually where I picked this one up. So I don't think there's distribution on this, at least not wide. I was actually at a tap room in Cincinnati where I picked this one up.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
Great legs, great lacing on this. I mean, it just coats the glass when you sort of swirl it around. Look at that. That's
pretty viscous.
Oh yeah.
I've had some like thin stouts, and those are. It's just not. It's fine, but you can't beat a Nitro.
This is great. Let's talk. Let's kind of back up and talk about the aroma a little bit. Chocolate.
Yep.
But not really a lot of roast or a lot of coffee that can sometimes come with the chocolate.
Yeah, I don't really think I get any coffee.
No, it's like dark chocolate.
Yeah. Maybe some of that cinnamon.
And some cinnamon is really, yep. One of these like heavy cacao, like sort of designer candy bars.
Oh yeah.
Where it doesn't smell like a sugar. It doesn't smell like a Hershey's or like a really sugary, mass-produced kind of bar, but or like baker's chocolate type of thing.
The kind of candy you pass up on the way to the Reese's Cups.
Right. Yeah.
No, I mean they went all out for Mexican hot chocolate, and they knocked it out of the park.
Yeah, this is really, really a tasty treat, and really a nice example of a dessert beer without necessarily being pastry inspired. Instead, it's inspired by a dessert drink.
Yeah,
yeah,
and that's awesome to me. I mean, I feel like you can kind of get tired of like the coffee stout. I mean, maybe not me, but so somebody could get tired of like the coffee stouts or stuff like that. But this is a nice departure, kind of from that. It's nice to kind of get away from it for a second.
Yeah, and I can really drink this. Like,
oh yeah.
Despite it being kind of hot chocolate inspired and a fairly big beer, it's 8.2 is kind of big in the world of beers, but it's not hitting that like Russian Imperial Stout level.
No, yeah, exactly.
So it's still approachable enough, I think, that it doesn't have to be like a fireside sipper.
Absolutely. I mean, easily, very easily. And it's
you rated it down a 4-pack.
Well, I know. They went for something that it's not just like, let's make a hot chocolate Nitro. Somebody like there at the meeting was like, no, Mexican hot chocolate Nitro. And it's like, all right, yeah, because I mean, you with going just regular chocolate stout, you risk just being really samey. You risk falling into the trap of this tastes like X chocolate stout. I've had this before. It's like, no, this is something that's like maybe not necessarily original, but like newer. Like it's a novel concept to me.
And so maybe jumping ahead to the mouthfeel a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that the Nitro really helps with the certainly the creaminess, but it also like kind of takes the edge off of those roastier notes you get sometimes with chocolate and beer, and definitely even with like the spice. Now, the more I'm drinking it, the more my tummy's kind of warming up a little bit. I think from that like residual heat, but it's not burning me down in the throat.
Okay.
And I think that's because of that Nitro, that creamy pillowiness.
Yeah. That's interesting because I am getting a little bit of like spice in my esophagus.
Really?
Kind of. Yeah, but maybe we just process spice differently.
Sure.
It's great.
Really nice.
This is great.
Very carefully crafted. I would venture to guess that it took them several tries to get a balance this well.
Yeah.
I think sometimes as a home brewer, it's really hard to knock it out of the park right on your first batch. So, breweries do things like pilot batches where they won't brew it on their big scale system. They'll brew a smaller, almost like a homebrew system.
Right. Yeah.
And as they refine their recipe, and I think homebrewers, be willing to experiment. I think a great part of homebrewing is experimentation.
Yeah.
But also, I think it's important if you're really trying to do something complex like this, is to be willing to brew the same recipe several times in a year, if not a few times in a row, and take good notes and dial in on that.
Yeah.
It's just really hard to achieve balance, especially if you're only brewing a beer, one time.
Exactly. Yeah, no, that makes sense to me. And I mean, it's not like a big like bourbon barrel age, so I mean, you could theoretically turn a batch around in like what, a month or so.
Something like this probably still needs a little bit of age,
Okay.
but yeah, I mean, it just kind of goes for any kind of complex beer or any recipe that you're really trying to dial in.
Yeah.
You know, be willing to do, okay, this is version 1, this is version 2 type of thing. So
Yeah. No, this is excellent.
it's very, very good. Extremely, extremely well balanced, and really can't recommend this enough. This is great.
Especially for a type of beer that like I think you really could mess up.
Oh yeah.
I think you could. I mean, it's like you said. I mean, this had to have gone through several iterations before it became canned. So
Yeah, some care and consideration went into this one.
nice.
So.
Well, we have oddly enough, we have two Mexican drink themed dessert beers.
Yeah.
So I'm not really sure how that one happened, but up next we have the horchata beer from who's that?
Let's see here. All right, we have a little brewery I've never heard of before, Catawba Brewing Company, which is out of where the heck is from North Carolina.
Okay.
It is called El Gato Mariachi, and it is a horchata flavored white ale.
Okay.
And it says
Nice.
rich, sweet cinnamon
Yep.
all around the band up top here. So
Well,
yeah.
I think we know what we're in for.
So this actually poured totally light.
Very light, very clear.
Yeah, I mean they call it a white ale, but it is like it looks like a Kolsch or something. I mean, it's like
definitely does.
golden and pale and crystal clear.
Bright white head that sort of dissipates really quickly.
Yeah. Now a white ale, I usually think of like kind of like a wheat ale sometimes, like a white ale. And usually that means that it's going to be a little cloudy. So I don't know, maybe it's just a standard kind of like a basic, just a golden ale type base.
Mm-hmm.
So
I mean, it smells sugary.
it's like a natural sugar type smell, not like an artificial or like a lactose even.
Getting a little bit of vanilla Tootsie Roll.
Doesn't have a strong horchata aroma. It's like kind of sugary, but then otherwise like a pretty neutral green.
It doesn't have a strong horchata taste. I can tell you that much for free. It doesn't taste bad. It tastes good, but it tastes a lot like how it smells.
Yeah, it's creamy. It's kind of cinnamony. I think it actually tastes more horchata type forward than it smells.
Yeah,
Sure.
horchata is rice water. There's no milk in it.
Oh, okay.
So
well, there you go.
Yeah. So I mean that could be where your
Sure.
disparity is coming from in your mind.
Well, and rice as an adjunct is used in a huge number of beers.
Yeah.
It's used in Budweiser even.
Sure.
And it's a way to increase alcohol while lightening the body of a beer, and it doesn't really add that much flavor. So
we've said that before.
yeah, I could see why maybe now if they use some rice, it's lighter.
I don't know if they necessarily did because it's 5.3. So you said it's used to like kind of lighten the body but raise the alcohol.
Yeah, I mean they could still
still
have
cut
put
it,
some.
yeah.
It says it's a white ale with lactose and natural cinnamon and vanilla flavor.
Yeah, right.
So cinnamon, vanilla, little lactose. I'm a little surprised there's lactose in this, just because it does have that sweetness.
Yeah, that could have just been for the sweetening.
Yeah, but usually that increases the body. So I bet they did put some rice in here too.
Ooh.
At least as a home brewer. To get this is probably how I would balance it.
Yeah.
Like if you want to add lactose for like the sweetness and that like creaminess, but you don't want a heavy body, you could balance that with a rice adjunct,
with rice, yeah.
which then thins it out. So it's all a balancing act.
Right, of course. That's incredibly complex. Because, well, I mean, it makes sense because the rice water kind of aspect of horchata. So, I mean, a horchata is pretty naturally, if you get a good horchata from like a Mexican restaurant, it's pretty watery, all things considered.
Oh, okay.
So, it's not really supposed to be like thick, but it's still got some pretty, I mean, it's got a nice flavor punch.
Nice.
Like, you know when you're drinking horchata.
Yeah. I think the only time I've had any chata is the is just the rum
The rum
chata.
chata.
Maybe that's where I'm getting that like
Yeah.
thick creaminess from.
Right. Which, and I mean, considering what it is, rum chata actually is delicious.
Yeah.
I haven't had it in a while, but yeah, very good.
I like this beer. I like the first beer a bit better.
Yeah.
Just because it was so well balanced, and that nitro really pushed it over the edge for me. This is really tasty though.
This is really good. This is really good. Both of these so far. I mean, we're 2 for 2.
Yeah. So I was out of town, and I usually don't like to do this, but this is one that I picked up just because of the sombrero cat. And it's interesting how like the cinnamon is pretty prominent, but it's not like that cinnamon seltzer that we had, or that pumpkin spice seltzer where it was just like, remember how I think you described it as like just like wet cinnamon. This doesn't have that character to it. Like there's enough else going on.
Right. No, definitely not like just a heap of cinnamon dumped into seltzer water.
Right.
I mean, this actually has some depth, complexity. This has good flavor, good carbonation.
One thing we haven't mentioned on either of the first 2 beers is really any hop presence.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's so non-existent.
Yeah, I think for this one that it's there a little tiny bit more, but it's like a background balancing thing. Right. And it's a lighter beer, so sometimes you need that just to kind of even it out. But these are not. I think, and that's just going to be standard for any kind of pastry or dessert-based beer. That hops are just not going to be the center stage.
No, well, and I mean, even in milkshake IPAs, like when you think of an IPA, you think of some kind of hop presence. Like, but I mean, from the milkshake IPAs I've had, they just don't have it.
Well, some of those can be a lot of hops, but they're all super late editions, so there's just zero bitterness to it. It's all just like
sure.
Yeah, and for this, I'm not really getting it in the flavor, the aroma at all. It's just probably a little charge in the bittering edition for balance, but really the whole like aroma, flavor profile of this beer is the malts and then the adjunct, the special flavors for it.
Yeah. No, this is a super interesting beer. I definitely drink more of this.
Yeah. Let's grab Snake Cake and see what this one's all about.
That is a big boy.
Yeah, it's a nice bomber. You don't see enough beers in bombers anymore.
Yeah.
So this is a beer that was barrel aged and bottled at West 6th Brewing in Lexington, Kentucky. So this is from Kentucky there, right in the heart of bourbon country.
Yeah.
So true to bourbon country, this is an imperial stout aged in bourbon barrels. And then they added vanilla and cocoa nibs.
Yeah.
So,
well, I'm sure. I'm sure it's got. I mean, it's right in the heart of bourbon country, like you said. It's got to have some great bourbon barrel.
I would hope so. And I'll just read what the description here is. It says, taking decadence to the next level, Snake Cake is one of our most popular barrel-aged recipes. Layers of silky vanilla, deep chocolate, and charred caramel notes all stack upon our full-bodied Snake Eyes Imperial Stout. Aged in bourbon barrels, this 13% melt-in-your-mouth brew, the icing on the cake for any celebration. And then it says, enjoy now or let me age in a cool, dark place.
There you go.
So, this has been aging for about 5 months.
Ooh, that'll have some
me,
good flavor to it.
Yeah, hopefully.
Yeah. So that explains where the snake part of Snake Cake comes from.
Yeah.
Snake Eyes.
Snake Eyes Imperial Stout, and then deep chocolate and vanilla flavor to kind of add the cake aspect.
Nice.
Cool.
Well, let's get into that.
For sure.
Very, very just jet black beer. Well, I guess if we're being concise, it's more of a very jet brown beer.
It's super, super dark brown.
Mm-hmm.
Right, that smells like a bourbon stout right there.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Definitely taste the barrel.
Very oaky, and I definitely get that spirit in like the mid to like end palate. Like in the finish and aftertaste. I'm tasting the bourbon and like even like some of that spirit like heat.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's definitely. I think it's more that forward than the chocolate.
Yeah, definitely.
I can almost not taste the chocolate.
Yeah, I'm getting. I think especially I'm glad that we did the lighter beer in between, so we're not going from like one dark beer to the next. Yeah. It was almost like a little bit of a palate cleanser. I am getting some chocolate, but it's a different type of chocolate.
It's not Mexican hot chocolate for sure.
No, and it's almost more of like a powdered like sweetened cocoa more than like that like rich dark chocolate of that first.
It's exactly what it says on the bottle. And bourbon.
Yeah,
a lot of that.
Bourbon barrel, chocolate, vanilla, and call it a day. And I think chocolate and vanilla go really well together. They complement each other
They
really
definitely
well.
do.
I think a lot of times chocolate by itself can just kind of easily blend into generic roast or coffee or whatever. But then when you add the vanilla, that almost, because chocolate and vanilla go so well together, that almost when you add vanilla to chocolate, it makes it taste more like chocolatey.
Yeah. It's a funny thing in baking. If you add coffee to chocolate, it makes it taste more chocolatey.
Yeah.
So similar thing. they could have just added coffee in here, not said anything, and probably people would have thought, "Oh yeah, there it is.
Oh.
There's the coffee bourbon stout."
The first one was pretty big and bold, huge flavors, and I said that wasn't really a fireside sipper. I could drink the whole can.
Yeah.
This one I'm glad we're sharing because, it's 13% alcohol, and not only that, it's like I feel it. Like it's a big,
it's a heavy hitter,
bold beer.
Yeah. Yeah, and we still have half the bottle left.
All right.
So, the actual cocoa pod is like bigger than like. It's like fits in your like hand.
It's big.
It's big.
Oh, okay.
It's like I'm trying to find anything in the area. It's like if you cut the top off of this bottle, it's that big.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, and like you cleave into it, and there's this weird, thick like white pulp. Like to look at somebody like opening the cocoa pod. In my mind, when I watched the video, I'm like, that's disgusting.
Yeah.
It was almost like some kind of like alien larva.
Like an android's blood from Alien or something?
Exactly like that.
Really? Okay.
But delicious and chocolatey. Oh. And then within that white pulp are the cocoa nibs. They're just like these little tiny coffee bean-ish kind of things, and you can like roast them, and that really amps up the chocolatiness of the flavor.
Yeah.
And then kind of go from there with whatever you're going to do with them. The video in particular I watched actually ground the cocoa nibs up really fine, and he added like almost boiling water to make almost like a chocolate coffee or chocolate tea kind of a drink.
Oh, wow.
And he said it was amazing. I can't remember what the channel was. If I remember, I'll have you added.
Sure, yeah.
It was a really interesting video. In a different video, he also made coffee in the same style of like making chocolate.
Oh,
so
wow.
kind of it was like a reverse kind of a thing. So
nice.
It was
really interesting.
Yeah, but like just I knew like that cocoa pods were huge.
Yeah.
But I had never seen the inside, and I didn't realize that the cocoa nibs came from inside.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and you can buy cocoa pods. There are websites that like source them. You can buy them, but you can also just buy the cocoa nibs individually and then like either roast them yourself, or.
Yeah, actually, there are homebrew suppliers.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Any local homebrew shop or however you get your homebrew supplies, they will have cocoa nibs.
Yeah, a big bag of cocoa nibs.
Yeah, bag of cocoa nibs, and they actually will add a ton of chocolate flavor, more than chocolate malts, which can be kind of more on the roasty and coffee side.
Yeah.
More than I've even heard of people just like opening up a pack of Swiss Miss and dumping it in, which is fine.
You can do that,
but
sure.
There's so much sugar in that a lot of that just kind of ends up fermenting out. So if you want that like pure chocolate flavor without the extra sugar, without the roastiness. There's no better way to do it as a home brewer than adding cocoa nibs.
Yeah.
You can add cocoa nibs in the boil, which is probably the safest way from a sanitary perspective. I would add it at the very, very end of the boil. Otherwise, it's gonna kind of get like probably a little bit too bitter, and then you're gonna lose some of that like chocolate. Because a lot of the chocolate is really in like the aroma and everything too.
Sure.
And then you can also actually add it in the secondary. And if you do that, of course, you have to be careful about bacteria that could be living on the cocoa nibs. So you can soak it in a neutral spirit like vodka, or you could even soak it in, if you want to do something like this, soak it in a nice bourbon.
Yeah.
And then you can have a bourbon. Heck, you could actually cut a vanilla bean, put some cocoa nibs in like a little Tupperware container, a Ziploc bag or something. Pour some bourbon over the top of it. Seal it up, let it kind of make a tincture, extract all that, and just pour the whole thing into your secondary carboy.
This sounds like a very delicious but possibly expensive beer.
Yeah, I mean, a little bit goes a long way.
That's true.
Yeah, I mean, really, a few ounces of bourbon.
Yeah, you're gonna use the one pod.
Yep.
Of vanilla.
One pod, yeah, one bean of vanilla or whatever, and a little bit of cocoa nibs.
Yeah.
So, actually, my batch 200 is coming up.
Yes.
My 200th batch of beer. And what I did for my batch 100 was I made a big imperial stout, and I added vanilla and cocoa to it.
There you go.
So I'm going to do the same thing for my batch 200. And I found that actually soaking it in a vanilla vodka can really kind of enhance it, as long as it's like strong enough of a vodka. You want to get a spirit that's over 35 or 40% alcohol to make sure that you're not getting anything you don't want in there. So maybe we'll document a little bit of that beer, and certainly us trying it.
That'll be nice to try. Yeah.
Yeah.
It sounds good.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So anyway, that's some quick homebrew tips on how you can add cocoa, vanilla, get flavors like this in your homebrew.
Yeah. Coating the side of the glass.
It sure is. I mean,
Very burnt.
13% alcohol.
Yeah, better.
Nice big spirit, bourbon legs. Yeah, that's great.
Nice.
Yeah. So these were some really nice dessert beers.
Yeah, I'll say.
Tonight. Yeah.
I mean, when you try big out there flavors, like Mexican hot chocolate, horchata, you definitely run the risk of being like just undrinkable garbage that they're just trying to offload to anybody dumb enough to buy it.
Yeah.
Those were not that. Those were excellent examples of dessert beers done well. This is maybe a little bit more conventional with the chocolate and bourbon aging. Yeah. But excellent beer also.
Yeah.
So
I mean, a lot of breweries will do a stout with, barrel aged with chocolate and vanilla or similar type of, seasonal release type stout.
Yeah.
This is an example of one done, really pretty well. And what's nice is, as I said, I haven't really aged this for very long, just a few months. But they also really do well if you lay them down and age them out a number of years. And, a lot of people, will collect a beer and then maybe have a side-by-side tasting of, have the same beer 3 years old, 4 years old, 5 years old, and then like this year, and then kind of that way you really understand like the nuances of, okay, what does aging really do for the beer? Maybe the subtle, like the malt and the base beer comes out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And then all these different flavors, we've noted distinct barrel character, right?
Absolutely.
And distinct chocolate. When you age the beers, all those flavors really start to blend and harmonize so much better.
Yeah.
So
kind of mellows out. Yeah.
Yeah, kind of mellows out, takes a little bit of the alcohol edge off a little bit, but really it just really blends together in a beautiful way.
Yeah.
When if you have the patience to lay a beer down for a couple of years.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, that's, and I can't wait till we talk about the beer aging episode.
Yeah.
So that'll feature at least one Dark Lord.
Sure. Yeah. We'll definitely have to do that at some point.
Yeah.
Some point soon.
we'll let the YouTube show age a little bit, and then we'll get into it.
There we go. Well, hey, thank you for joining us on this episode of Taste for Adventure. I think we're gonna shut the camera off and finish the rest of this bad boy.
Oh, yeah.
So let me top you off, and we
Absolutely.
can send everybody off with full tasting glasses.
Perfect.
All right. Well, this has been another episode. This one on dessert beers. So with that, we bid you farewell.
Cheers.
Cheers.